Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're heading way back to ancient Greece to get inside the head of a philosopher that Plato himself called a venerable and terrible master. We're talking about Parmenides of Elea, and trust me, his ideas about reality are going to bend your mind.
So Parmenides didn't just write down his philosophy in some boring old book. Nope. He wrote a poem called On Nature, and it describes this incredible mythical journey on a sun chariot, with goddesses guiding him all the way to the home of truth itself. Now, this wasn't just for show. It was his way of saying his philosophy isn't just an idea, it's a divine revelation, a trip from the darkness of confusion into the pure light of reason.
And when he arrives, a goddess greets him with this challenge. She's basically saying, look, I'm going to show you the real, unshakable truth. But I'm also going to show you the world of mortal opinions, the stuff people think is true, but isn't. So right from the get-go, she's setting up these two totally separate paths you can take.
Okay, so here's where the goddess reveals the core of it all, the one fundamental rule that his entire philosophy is built on. And it sounds so simple at first, but believe me, the consequences are absolutely staggering. This one idea would basically shape Western thought for thousands of years. This is it, the big one. Being is and cannot not be, while non-being is not and cannot be. What does that mean? Well, think about it. You can only think about and talk about things that are. You literally cannot think about what is not. Why? Because what is not is, well, it's nothing. Trying to think about pure nothingness is not thinking at all. And just like that, Parmenides drops the mic and establishes the principle of non-contradiction as the absolute bedrock of reality.
So, with this giant wall between what is and what isn't, Parmenides argues we have to use pure reason, what he called the logos, to figure out what reality is actually like. And here's his radical claim. Our senses, sight, sound, touch, they're liars. They show us a world where things are constantly changing, being born and dying. But logic, he says, pure, cold logic, that's the only thing that can show us the truth.
All right, let's follow his logic here. Let's just go with it. If we accept that non-being, nothingness, is totally impossible and unthinkable, then what must being, all of reality, be like? The conclusions he comes to are, well, they're really weird and completely counterintuitive. He paints a picture of a universe that looks nothing like the one we think we live in.
So if you stick to the logic, a few things become clear. First, being must be uncreated. It can't come from nothing, right? It must also be eternal. It can't have a past or a future, because that means there was a time it was not. It can only exist in this timeless, constant now. It also has to be unchanging, because to change means to become something you weren't before, which again involves non-being. And finally, it has to be one, a single unified thing.
And he doesn't stop there. The logic just keeps going. There can't be any empty spaces or gaps in reality, because an empty space would be a pocket of non-being, and we already said that's impossible. And get this, if there's no empty space to move into, then it can't move, at all. So what he's describing is that all of reality is one single motionless solid block of stuff.
This leads him to his final image of reality, a perfect sphere. Now for us, infinite might sound cool, but for the ancient Greeks, the sphere was the symbol of perfection. It's finite, it's complete, it's whole. So if you follow pure reason to its conclusion, the entire universe is one perfect, unchanging, solid sphere. Wild, right?
But hold on a second. This perfect, static, single sphere, that sounds absolutely nothing like the world you and I see every day, right? A world that's buzzing with change, variety, birth, death, and movement. So how on earth does Parmenides explain this massive contradiction between his flawless logic and our everyday reality?
He actually tackles this problem head-on. His solution is to make it official. He lays out those two paths the goddess told him about at the very beginning of his journey. You've got the way of truth, which you find through logic, and then you've got the way of opinion, which is based on our totally unreliable senses.
And he draws a really clear line in the sand between the two. The way of truth, that's aletheia, is the real deal. You can only get there through pure rational thought, and it reveals that true, single, unchanging reality we just talked about. Then there's the way of opinion, doxa, and that's the deceptive, chaotic world our senses show us. And here's the kicker. Parmenides argues that everything we see, hear, and touch, all the change, all the variety, it's all an illusion.
Okay, so why are we talking about this 2,500-year-old idea? What's the big deal?
Well, by splitting reality from appearance so radically, Parmenides basically created a fundamental problem that philosophers have been trying to solve ever since. You could say he dropped a logical bomb right in the middle of everything.
I mean, he pretty much founded the entire field of ontology. That's the study of what it even means to be. And his logic was so tight that every philosopher after him, including the great Plato, had to deal with it. In fact, Plato famously had to commit a kind of philosophical parricide, like killing his own father, by arguing that non-being could exist, not as nothingness, but as difference. He had to do that just to make sense of the world.
When you boil it all down, Parmenides' quest is something I think we can all relate to. In a world that feels like it's in constant flux, he was searching for something solid, something true and permanent, to anchor himself to. He chose pure logic as his anchor, and he stuck with it, even when it meant calling our entire world an illusion. So his philosophy leaves us with this really tough, maybe even unanswerable question. Are we trusting our senses way too much? And if this vibrant, crazy, changing world we experience every single day isn't the real one, then what is?
If a question made you stop and think, take one more second. Philosophy doesn't give easy answers, it teaches you how to ask better questions. Like the video if you enjoy thinking. Follow Philosophy LM and keep searching together.